Good evening, everybody. Dawa Hitch, Communication and Public Engagement Director for the City of Asheville. Thank you all for being here today for the Saturday, December 31st, 4 p.m. update on our water outage situation. Today we will have Water Resources Department Director David Melton speaking, Asheville Fire Chief Scott Burnett, and Mayor Esther Mannheimer. If you all could please hold your questions until the end. We'll be happy to answer those after they've had their remarks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and again, thank you for being here today. I'm David Melton, Director of Water Resources here for the City of Asheville. Got some updates on the water outage that we'd like to cover today. First, we're grateful for all the conservation efforts that our community has taken to help get pressures back in the water system, and it's helping us get everything stabilized quickly as possible. Progress continues to be made with water flow returning to most areas across the service area. Before I share the new areas receiving water, I would like to apologize for a mistake in yesterday's service map that indicated Royal Pines, Western Road, and Brookwood areas were back in service. These areas were not back in service yesterday. We've confirmed that water is flowing to those areas today. Portions of the following areas are now coming back online, but may have lower water pressure. In the south is Ballantree, Park Avenue, The Ramble, Biltmore Park, Royal Pines, Mount Royal, Brookwood and Western Road areas, and Gerber Village. And this represents this area in the south. In the west, Inca Lake, Youngs Cove, Sand Hill Road, and areas along 1923 and the Smoky Park Highway corridor, which are these new areas in pink you can see in the west, there and there. Again, factors such as elevation may mean a lot of customers in these areas will not receive water at the same time. Additionally, as pressure stabilizes in the system, there will be fluctuations in water pressure and intermittent water loss. Regarding the western part of Buncombe County, the greatest challenge will continue to be moving water uphill to higher elevations. Portions of this area have been out of service since Wednesday, and like the areas in the south, the same process has been done, coupled with the challenge, again, of moving water uphill. Higher elevations such as Spivey Mountain and Candler Knob will continue to be restored over the next several days. Thank you for your patience and your resilience as we continue to get the system back to full service. The efforts you are taking to conserve water are truly making a difference. Our next speaker will be Chief Scott Burnett.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, Scott Burnett, Fire Chief. Delivery of water to those in need continues through this weekend. As of noon today, we have made deliveries to over 1,500 people who have been affected by the water outages. This has been made possible by the efforts of city employees, Buncombe County Emergency Management, and also our Buncombe County Fire Departments who are delivering water as well. If you need water for drinking, if you need water for flushing toilets, if you need water for personal hygiene, any sanitation needs, call 251-1122. Our customer service folks are taking those calls between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. today and tomorrow. Again, if you have need for water for drinking, for personal hygiene, for flushing toilets, for sanitation, call 251-1122. We will make sure that that water is delivered to you. I'm happy to report that those requests have decreased significantly due to the water restoration efforts. The YMCA has made available all of their locations as part of the YMCA of Western North Carolina for the public to take showers tomorrow from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. Those locations can be found at ymcawnc.org. I'd like to thank Buncombe County Health and Human Services, as they have been in communication with nursing homes and assisted living facilities affected by the outage. We're happy to report that those facilities have had water restored. Mayor Esther Manheimer will now close out with a summary of the information.
Thank you, Chief Burnett. First of all, I want to again thank all of the residents of Asheville and Buncombe County who are patiently waiting for water to be restored to their area. And for those of you who now have water restored for the days that you went without, thank you so much for being patient and working with us to get this water restored. I also want to thank all of the staff who have been working around the clock, working so hard to restore water, and also to provide water to those who have requested it. As the chief just talked about, we have folks that have called in and asked for water to be delivered to their homes, and we've been able to fulfill those requests with a lot of work from staff who've been reallocated to make sure that happens. So thank you to all of those folks. We also want to thank our partners who have been working with us and helping us throughout this process, including the state and Buncombe County, Ingalls. You just heard that the YMCA is opening their doors for those who need showers at their facilities in Buncombe County. So we want to thank them as well. Yesterday I talked a little bit about restaurants, and so when we think about, this is Saturday, New Year's Eve, restaurants who do not have water are not operating, obviously, but if restaurants regain water, they are allowed to operate under a boil water advisory, and those protocols have been provided before to restaurants, so they should be aware of them. However, if a restaurant was shut down for operating without water by the county health department and they get water back, they can call the health department over the weekend at 828-250-5016 and ask for the after-hour service to come and put them back in business so that they can begin operations again. So again, that phone number is just necessary for those restaurants that might have been shut down for operating without water, and they are now ready to ramp up business again because they've had water restored. Again, if you are in need of water being delivered to your home for drinking or for sanitation, you can call the city's customer service line until 5 o'clock today at 828-251-1122. That's 828-251-1122. And again, tomorrow from 9 to 5, that line will be open and taking calls for requests for water delivery. Again, if you have been notified that you're under a boil water advisory, you are still under that boil water advisory until you've been notified otherwise. So if you're in an impacted area, you should have received a notice that you're under a boil water advisory, and you'll continue. I've gotten a few questions about that, so I just want to make sure folks know that yes, you continue to be under a boil water advisory until notified otherwise. And I do want to thank folks who have reached out to me, to members of our staff, to let us know whether or not you have water and to ask those questions, for example, about boil water advisory. That's been very helpful. We also want to thank folks for continuing to conserve water to allow the system to recharge and rebuild that water pressure throughout the system. That is necessary so that we can get that pressure back to normal and provide water to all customers. So thanks again for all those folks out there helping us to conserve water. There will be a summary of everything talked about in this press conference following. Just shortly after this, we'll provide that in written form and through AVL alerts. And then we will continue to provide customers with updates through AVL alerts throughout this continuing process. And we're available to take any questions if there are any at this point.
Yeah, hi, Mayor. At this point, the latest press release sent out said 2 to 3 days, especially for that Candler area, before water is restored. How can residents have faith in that it will be restored? The city has repeatedly pushed back that deadline. Initially, it was supposed to be 24 to 48 hours. Now we're going nearly a week without that, especially for those areas out in Candler.
Yeah, and I think it's important to distinguish the timing issues for South Asheville. South Asheville, large portions of South Asheville are now back online, and those remaining portions of South Asheville should be back online here pretty quickly. And what you're asking me about, and what we're talking about, is specifically West Buncombe County, so the western portion of the county where we have had water outages. And it is somewhat spotty. We've heard reports of folks who have water, and maybe 2 blocks away, someone who doesn't have water. So when we talk about that extended timeline, we're specifically talking about the western portion of Buncombe County. In terms of the logistics of restoring water service to that area, I defer to the water director about how that works from an engineering standpoint and the timing piece of it.
I've used a metaphor before about a spider, but I'm gonna switch that up a little bit in this case because we got elevation, right? So if you think of a tree, think of your Christmas tree. You've got your water at the bottom of the real Christmas tree, right? It has to go up and fill the trunk, then go to the branches. This is a very similar situation, especially with West Buncombe County. So we've got to get the water there, get it pressurized, get it up to the tanks so it flows back to the folks. So that takes a little bit of time, and like we talked about before, and we truly do appreciate the conservation efforts. They really are helping. The more we do that, the more we can build that pressure to push it that way.
So at this point, when will the system be 100% back online? When will people stop seeing these outages or low pressure?
We're like the mayor said, we're working around the clock to make that happen. I don't have, 2 o'clock on this day or whatever to provide with you. I wish I did. But just know that we're working around the clock to make this happen. And I will say too, as we're going through this, we have normal water leaks and things like that. So there may be an isolated area that gets a potential outage or an outage notice that's for a shorter duration. And that's addressing a water leak, which is what we normally do every day. So we've got a little mix of both going on while we're going through this.
What about additional resources? Has the city looked into possibly bringing in a water tanker to help expedite that process and filling the tank up?
Chief might be able to.
Yeah, I'll let the chief speak to that, but I will let you know that we're receiving help from Metropolitan Sewer District. All of our neighboring water utilities are offering up help, so we're looking at all those avenues to help.
Specific to water for drinking purposes and sanitation, public health type things. So the emergency management system starts local, and the Buncombe County is set up to assist, and they have been when those local resources are exceeded. Beyond that, the state is ready to assist once those county resources are depleted. And so early on, those conversations were had with the county and the state, and they all stand ready to assist. Fortunately, to date, we do not have any unmet needs as far as getting drinking water, sanitation water, public health water, water to flush people's toilets. All of those requests that are coming in, we are able to meet.
Yeah, I think my question more along the lines, the actual plan, so the system, as you mentioned, Mr. Melton, filling up that system, getting the water up the tree and to the roots. Can there be any resources brought in to help fill that system at its original core to help push more water through those lines?
Well, all 3 of our water treatment plants are fully operational, so there's no need there. We actually brought in an additional pump to help with the western area of the county, bigger inline pump to assist with that. So not at this time.
And then I know we've talked during these press conferences, you said there was a plan, a contingency plan for a situation like this. Can you kind of update us how that plan was executed, if you've noticed any flaws or anything you would change to prevent another situation? I know we said this was a one-time deal, obviously, due to the weather and the breaks, but if this were to occur again, what would some of those changes be to prevent a situation like this?
Well, and this is an ongoing process. We do have and have practiced our emergency plan. But you learn something from every incident, right? And after it's over, you have an action plan. Then you go back and improve your emergency plan and your contingency plans and plan from there.
It kind of seems like there might have been some deficiencies. This festered on Christmas Eve, and we're now going into the new year. Some people have water. Would you say there were some deficiencies there?
I would say that no plan's perfect, and one size shoe doesn't fit all.
All right, moving on. infrastructure wise, do you think there was anything, was there anything to do with our infrastructure? We know it gets cold here in the mountains. We knew the center, the facility was offline. If you look to areas like Hendersonville, I believe Waynesville as well, they still have water, and obviously the temperatures are comparable out there to what we had here in Asheville. So why this system and not those other areas?
I think that's a very good question. You know, we got hit this time. We realized with the sub-zero temperatures that we had, where our vulnerabilities were at, and we're already working on plans to fix those. You know, we had things in the plant that froze and busted. We actually had a sprinkler system in the plant that froze and busted. So it's like I said before, it's a learning thing, and the best we can do is fix it so it doesn't happen again, right?
And then this one's for the mayor. There's obviously been question, I know you've addressed this already, regarding seeking aid from the governor. I know you said you spoke with Senator Chuck Edwards as well. I want to ask, have you requested any aid? I know we have the emergency, but have you specifically asked the governor's office for any assistance?
I mean, I have communicated with the governor's representative in the western portion of our state a couple of times. I've been contacted by the director of DEQ as well. And as you mentioned already, talked with Senator Chuck Edwards. We are availing ourselves of any support they can provide for us. And as the chief already mentioned, they work with us through the emergency services system here and the 211 system, so that we can provide emergency response to those who are in need and need water. I think we are maximizing what is available to us in terms of resources to help address this crisis. We are operating under the state of emergency declared by the governor. And so to my knowledge, and I've asked the question, is there any other resource, anything else that we could ask for, that we need to ask for, that we haven't asked for already? And the answer that has been provided to me is no. We are maximizing what we can ask for, and we're receiving it. So, that is an important question, and I would never want to leave any resource on the table. We want to maximize every opportunity we have to help address this situation.
And then from a city standpoint, I know the community obviously appreciates these conferences you guys are all holding to inform us of what's going on with this water crisis. But there has been one person lacking right now from these conferences, and that is the city manager, Dr. Campbell. Is she going to comment on this at all? Is she going to make an appearance?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, there isn't exactly a playbook for how every city in America should deal with a crisis like this and who needs to be speaking at every single one of these press conferences. So we were trying to put forward enough people that have different spread of information for the public so that they get the best and most thorough responses they can get. So I think it would be somewhat duplicative since you have someone who's dealing with the emergency service portion and the service portion, as well as the elected official piece of it. But the city manager is walking up here because she's been at every single one of these press conferences with us and managing this crisis response.
And city manager, if you don't mind me asking, I know there was some circulating on Twitter, especially a lot of people were upset. No one's blaming you for taking the holiday for yourself, but not being at the forefront of this and really speaking to the community here, do you have anything you would like to say?
I think, as the mayor said, most of the information has been conveyed by the experts, as well as our elected official. In terms of my role is to support my staff in helping us respond to this major crisis within our community. When someone has emailed me, they have probably seen I am out until I was back in the city on December the 26th, and I have been fully engaged since that time.
And no one's obviously upset that you took your holiday as you should. But right now, from your standpoint, is there anything from your position that you really can do to better the situation? Obviously, you're not a water engineer. No one thinks you are. But is there anything from your position that you can do moving forward or assist in this way? Kind of break down what you are doing to help in the situation.
Sure. Every communication that goes out, I am trying to review and ensure that we are conveying the appropriate and accurate message to the community. My philosophy is we are not going to overpromise and underdeliver. And unfortunately, because of the complexity of this particular situation, we were not able to restore our customers as we had thought we were going to originally this past Friday, I believe. The days are running into each other these days. And so that is a disappointment, but I can assure you that there's no person that's more disappointed than the director of our Water Resources Department, because he knows that I'm holding him accountable, just as our elected officials are holding me accountable, and that this community is holding us accountable.
Do you think there's any deficiencies across the board with the plans or anything to have kind of prevented this? Communication was lax on this. It happened New Year's Eve, and I don't think the first press conference or any word of this actually came out for a couple days after.
So the one thing that we try desperately not to do, and that is to alarm the community, shock them. So we really wanted to get an assessment of what happened. So on the 24th, something happened. On the 25th, I'm located in the South. I got my alert that something was wrong. On the 26th, I got 4 alerts. And we just went into action after that. Can there be something different done? As you heard from the Water Resources Department Director, we are definitely going to do an after-action assessment and report. This is kind of interesting because we are in the process, believe it or not, of updating an emergency preparedness plan. As we speak, we hired a consultant, they're working with us. This happened obviously before we were able to launch that process, but this will be definitely some lessons learned that we will improve. And as the director said, we don't have a silver bullet, and we didn't have a silver bullet for this particular instance, but we have a lot of lessons learned, and we will do better.
Do you think there were any obvious deficiencies with this, getting this situation? I think there's a lot of frustrated people. You know, this was Christmas Eve, we're now going into New Year. Today is New Year's Eve, so we are going into that New Year. And some people are going without water. I guess, what do you say to them?
And what I would say to them is, I personally experienced that as well, that we are so disappointed, that our system disappointed. So many people over the holidays who had to change their plans. What I hope the community realizes is that if this situation could have been avoided, we would have avoided it. Obviously, we don't want to cause harm to our community. That's not our intent. And we hope that we have not lost the confidence of the community, and that they realize truly that this was very complex, that we did what we knew to do at the time with the information that we had. And as we said, we'll do an after action, we'll learn from it, and hopefully we'll do better.
City Manager, thank you. My last question, this map that we have up here right now, how up to date is that, and do you have a number of homes impacted?
This is actually the interactive map that's provided through the press releases. Anybody can pull it up and look at it. It's updated regularly, so it is up to date and accurate. As far as number of homes and things like that, we just don't have those numbers.
And for those residents who are saying those maps might be outdated or incorrect, I know we've gotten a lot of calls and emails, people saying that, you addressed this earlier, but that some of it might not be accurate, that there are some people still without the water issues. Do you have anything to comment on that?
I do, and if you look at the pink area, we preface that in the legend as water service restored or in progress. So the water is getting into this area, it just may not be to you yet. And it's like we spoke about before, the elevation and all those other factors, you know, back to the Christmas tree again, right? If you're on a smaller branch, it may take longer to get to you.
Key phrase there, in progress.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you all for being here today, and just to remind everybody again, you can access this map from the front page of the city's website. You'll see there under a news story our water outage updates, and so that's available, and it's regularly updated. So if you access it through the front page of the website, what you get in that map will be the most recent information. And again, you can follow us on our social channels to stay updated on new news, and that front page of the website will be updated as well. And finally, for those that are impacted by this outage, your number one resource is going to be those alerts that are coming directly to your phone